Your Excellency, thank you very much. In the gathering twilight of its singularity, stars and constellations appear, bringing to us the gifts of wonder and thoughtfulness. What, in the circumstances of a multicultural, multipolar, or multinodal world, what are the circumstances and future of diplomacy?
Знаете, я считаю, что дипломатия в любых
You know, I believe that diplomacy in any system, in any format of the world order will not disappear.
никуда не исчезнет.
I have already said that diplomacy is the oldest
Это
profession
самая древняя профессия. Потому что обо всем
because
остальном
everything else needs to be negotiated, right? Therefore, there is no place without diplomacy.
И какое-то время назад
And some time ago, again, speaking about the naive perception of that pink period of the post-Soviet period, when we were all looked after, hundreds of specialists worked here in our state institutions, especially in financial institutions. Everything seemed like the end of history. Now we are part of this civilized world. Well, the disappointment came very quickly. But at that time, in our foreign policy language, there was such a formula, and it was written down in various analytical documents, that the new era, post-Soviet, post-Cold War, has the main feature of reducing the force factor in international affairs. Well, now you can only laugh at this topic, because as soon as someone was convinced to reduce the force factor, as soon as someone was convinced, this factor is immediately involved in full. Now, of course, there cannot be such a naive perception of all these promises, spells, but diplomacy is still necessary, including in order not to allow uncontrolled arms race to the level, especially nuclear weapons, to the level where irreparable things can happen. Moreover, now there is such a serious risk as artificial intelligence. Who knows what this artificial intelligence will decide for itself when it understands how the management of a particular country is organized? This is what many people are doing now. And there is a desire in the Trump administration to resume strategic dialogue. We assume that as soon as the basic foundations of our relations, on which they are based, will be brought in accordance with the principles of equal negotiations on strategic stability, we will be ready to resume such negotiations as long as additional efforts are needed. Well, another example when diplomacy is still needed is the Ukrainian situation. Yes, now our best diplomats are certainly the fighters on the front line, on the battle line of contact. They win back the truth, honor, and dignity of people. And recently, this Merz got so excited in one of his speeches and said that Russia needs to be stopped. We will again make Germany the #1 military force in Europe. I don't know if he understood what the word again means in this context, but then he added that Russia and Ukraine will not stop and will conquer all of Europe. He judges by himself. He still has the mentality of Hitler's Germany, which needed territories to gain access to natural wealth. And most people of certain ethnic groups and forms were simply going to destroy and destroyed. And now he is trying to think about us based on his own genetic, instinctive assessments and plans. We are not conducting this special military operation for the territory, but for the people whose ancestors lived on these lands for centuries, created cities there, built ports, factories, roads, sowed wheat, produced other products. And it was these people who were declared non-humans as the first leaders who came to power after Putsch in 1914, beings, as Zelensky did in September 1921, answering the question of what he thinks about people on the other side, people in Donbass. He said that there are people, but there are also beings. If you live in Ukraine and think that you belong to Russian culture, my advice is to fail in Russia for the sake of safety and happiness of your children and grandchildren. By the way, they actually listened to him, held referendums, and, as he says, failed in Russia. This is what we are talking about. And when in the Russian city of Odessa, the monument to Empress Catherine, the founder of the city, the Kiev Nazi regime, ignoring the protests of the citizens, is demolished, and a week later UNESCO declares the historical part of Odessa, where this monument was, a world cultural heritage. What should we think of UNESCO, which is headed by a French citizen? How can we be so disgraced, and how can we make sure that no one in the West even mentions it? Although the facts are absolutely obvious, therefore we have now held negotiations in Istanbul. Our operation will continue. The President has clearly explained this, but at the same time, we are ready to make a contribution to the classical diplomacy in achieving the goals of a special military operation. First of all, in solving humanitarian issues, exchange of prisoners. You know everything. The return of young people who have been shaved through these TCCs, or as they are called there, the guys on the Ukrainian side, the wounded, the sick. And of course, about Zelensky's refusal to take the bodies of his soldiers. So much has already been said that I do not even want to talk about this shameful topic in addition. But once again, the results achieved on the ground will still be recorded in legal documents. This will be done, yes, together with the military, but, of course, first of all, diplomats. Our position is clear. We know what we are fighting for. And there, directly at the front, and in the diplomatic economic direction, and in the direction of raising our children,